live from the Accra High Court. Ena chese Chama Wontumi abusia oko akwakoje na tembu. And the final day for Chama Wontumi in Samuel Boy case, Justice Audrey Kokovite or tena na ugwamuna wode enyema atoto ani na yahwe se Chama Wontumi abusia obebefie ana se die ebesie sesi ameno ka se Chama Wontumi one eye akonta mining ene kwame antwi at large abusia ye the 6 charges ena egu one so na breaking news amensa akane sesi am de bre ahwefo ne etifo nyina ne se Chama Wontumi found guilty on all 6 counts chese ye de abono no na amongst them no is a assignment of mineral rights without ministerial approval, 2 facilitating unlicensed mining operations, corporate liability of Akonta mining, and other 3 charges. I just say about Chama Wontumi no. So in all 6 charges, I the good Chama Wontumi ne Akonta mining Kwame Antwi at large continues to be at large. Ebusia se see idea the ababeto dwane say 6 charges we nyina no. Chama Wontumi ne cohort no, they found guilty in all these counts. See in the action say Justice Audrey Kogovite obeka say Chama Wontumi ma sentence o A B C eno ene yehwe na one thing they say Chama Wontumi the legal team led by lawyer Atta enya ni twa say Atta any oman Ghana mo asese nemo Oma the representative from the chambers ni bi ekoi na wonom ebesere court ni say Chama Wontumi onye mfomso ewo man Ghana mu hada. This is the very first time to almost say the court ni be sha wonom esusu enjeli no definitely 6 counties ebeti abase ebe jeli Chama Wontumi a not less than 20 years ena Chama Wontumi ebetimi akwakutwa ewo prisons na so because of say Chama Wontumi akwaye first time offender ni ntino ye hye say bi a Chama Wontumi court no be hunu mobo na wonom atene mfie obetimi akwakutwa no so yentie ensema a free court eba sisi ya mene kasa ye wabre reporter no my the course one.
So breaking news, Chairman Wontumi, the NPP Ashanti regional chairman, has been found guilty on all the counts that the states have leveled against him. What is now going to happen is that Chairman Wontumi will be sentenced to a definite jail term based on all the 6 counts. But if you look at the sentencing guidelines, Chairman Wontumi and his lawyers would have to make a plea of mitigation. And as we just get in from our reporter in court, that means a member of the legal team of Chairman Wontumi is in court right now, and he will be making a plea for mitigation. A plea to say that Chairman Wontumi is a first-time offender. Chairman Wontumi is not known to commit a lot of offenses. So even though you have found him guilty of all these offenses, you should not sentence him to a very stiff or lengthy, as we know, sentence. We know that this counts to carry up to 20 years in jail. And 6 counts, all of them will usually run concurrently. So it will, even though all the different offenses will be 20 years, it will mean that Chairman Wontumi will go for 20 years for all of the various offenses. That is assuming that the judge uses the highest ceiling of the offense. The judge is now going to say that on the basis of the evidence that has been led, and having found Chairman Wontumi, Akonta Mining, and the other director guilty of the offenses that have been charged against them, we are sentencing you to A, B, C, or D term of imprisonment, which will usually run concurrently. They'll run at the same time. But the lawyers are now going to make a plea for mitigation. Oh, Judge, Chairman Wontumi has never committed an offense. He's a first-time offender. And all of that is supposed to be factored into the judge's idea and the judge's ultimately sentencing Chairman Wontumi to a term of imprisonment. So for those of you who are just joining, big breaking news when it comes to the fight against illegal mining and illegal mining scourge. NPP Ashanti Regional Chairman Bernard Enchibo Sinyako, Chairman Wontumi, Akonta Mining, and another director of his company have been found guilty of all the 6 counts having been related to assignment of mineral mining rights without authorization and facilitating illegal mining. They've been found guilty on all these counts, and what is left now is the judge to sentence these 3 people to various terms of imprisonment. But the lawyers will make a plea for mitigation to say that This is a first-time offender. Tamper justice with mercy, not to say free him, but the sentence should be a bit lenient. The state will also have a word on that, and then the judge will have the final say.
Unfortunate for Chairman Wontumi there, we also understand that prison officers are standing by at the court, currently waiting to whisk away Chairman Wontumi. We'll get in touch with our court correspondent, Fatal Bayaga. We'll be right back.
Who is at large, who have been arraigned and tried for 6 counts of assignment of mineral rights without approval, contrary to the Minerals and Mining Act, and facilitation of illegal mining. These 3 accused persons, and the notable one, NPP's Bernard Enchibo-Siako, Chairman Wontumi, have been found guilty. What is going to happen now is for the court to sentence them to a term of imprisonment commensurate with the offense that have been committed and which has been specified in the Mining and Minerals Amendment Act of 2019. It could go up to 20 years. And as we get in now from our correspondents in court, there's a plea of mitigation to the court to actually take into consideration before ultimately rendering a decision on sentencing. But the verdict has come. Bernard Enchibo-Siako, Chairman Wontumi, he drove in there today himself, but he's not going to drive himself back because he's been found guilty of all these offenses. There is very little chance of a fine. The expectation is that he's going to be sentenced to a term of imprisonment. It could go up to 20 years. And because he's been found guilty on all the 6 counts, together with his 2 co-accused persons, Akyea Mining Company Limited and Kwame Entry, the judge will now sentence them to a term of imprisonment, and we'll get the details of that pretty shortly in terms of what exactly the decision of Justice Audrey Kokuvite will be on this matter. We know that this morning, the lawyers for Chairman Wontumi had made a last-date attempt to try and arrest this judgment. That did not happen with the application for the matters to be referred to the Supreme Court, and also an application for the proceedings to be put on hold up until at least the lawyer for Bernard Enchibo-Siako's return from abroad were all not heeded to by the court, who has now considered the totality of the evidence before her, and Justice Audrey Kokuvite has found that Chairman Wontumi, Kwame Entry, who is at large, and Akyea Mining Company Limited indeed assigned mineral rights without approval, contrary to Section 14(1) and Section 99(2)(b) of the Minerals and Mining Act, and then also facilitated illegal mining. They have been found guilty on all the counts that the state put against them. And what is left now is for Justice Audrey Kokuvite to impose a sentence. Mamisi.
Yes, Kweku, and so we are still waiting to get the very latest from the Accra High Court. As we know currently, Chairman Wontumi and his 2 accomplices have been found guilty on all 6 counts. And then we'll be going right to the Accra High Court for the very latest on that. Your shots now are live shots from the Accra High Court. What it looks like over there. We see lawyers coming out of the courtroom with their files and also chit-chatting there. Obviously about the case and also other cases in the Accra High Court, and we'll be establishing contact shortly with our correspondent there, Fatal Bayaga, to give us the very latest in that judgment. What were the details? What were the basis that the judge placed her argument? So we'll be getting all of that from the Accra High Court. Fatal Bayaga will be joining us shortly. But quickly, let's go.
This is surreal. I mean, this is the first big illegal mining case that we have, and illegal mining. Both political parties agree that this is a big issue that must be dealt with. We just haven't found a way to deal with it. We have had the arrest of several persons who have always been found on the illegal mining side. What has been lacking is the arrest of the so-called bankrollers and the so-called big fishes who are behind the illegal mining fight. And Chairman Wontumi is the first of these persons that are said to be involved in this. And Chairman Wontumi and his co-accused persons have now been found guilty of all the counts that have been made against them. I'm trying to comb through the Minerals and Mining Act to be specific in terms of the punishment that Chairman Wontumi and his co-accused
Once you look for that, let's go through the counts. At least we know there's 6 counts.
There's assignment of mineral rights without approval, contrary to Section 14(1) and Section 99(2) of the Minerals and Mining Act. And then, so that is for Chairman Wontumi, for the second accused person, Kwame Entry, and then the Akyea Mining Company Limited. And then there's a purposely facilitating an unlicensed mining operation contrary to Section 99(2) of the Minerals and Other Offences Act. And it says, a person who without license granted by the minister undertakes a small-scale mining operation contrary to Section 1 or acts in contravention of the provisions commits an offence and is liable to a conviction, to a minimum fine of 1,000 penalty units, or to a prison or to imprisonment for a term of no more than 3 years above. That is the one having to do with facilitation. There is also the one having to do with mining itself, and I'm going to get the specifics of this provision. But it's such a big moment now for Chairman Wontumi, who now has to wait and listen to Justice Audrey Kokovite, looking at the totality of the evidence that has been provided, the plea for mitigation, and the specific term of imprisonment and fines that have been provided for under the law, and then decide how and where she wants to do it. What we can be certain about is that there will be jail terms involved in this, but the severity of it we'll get to see pretty shortly, Manisi.
And it's 20 years for the highest.
It could go up to 20 years.
It could go up to 20 years, but if the judge should consider the mitigation plea, what are we looking at?
Abusia for and somebody be right from a court premises. Abusia videos are circulating in from Mamudi to say another because prisons officers drew a court premises or just say Black Maria Abusia. And what court premises is here according to reports and just say AC a court no anymore 4 courts of the Accra High Court or just say one of chain say a Justice Audrey Kokovite ebe blow we say one na one MFA Chairman Wontumi ene Kwame Entry at large emfa one enwura Black Maria no mo fa no nko enkohye afuase nemu de twan say judge ebeka say my sentence o ABC yes no ene ye hwe and if my mind sets me right, Chairman Wontumi could serve about not less than 25 or 20 to 25 years in prisons, should in case a Justice Audrey Kokovite kase wa jailing no ye twen no nemu ye hwe say one ebetimi IBB dia fa ho ama Chairman Wontumi because or a first time offender yenti say the ensem into so eko.
I don't want to be in the shoes of Justice Kokovite now, who will obviously have to make this determination, looking at the totality of everything that has been put before her, and the plea of mitigation also, and which wouldn't take long. Once that is done, the lawyers of the Attorney General Department, I understand that Justice I himself may be there, the Deputy Attorney General, who's been leading the prosecution throughout in court, he is going to be there. And he's going to also perhaps chip in whether or not they agree with the plea of mitigation, whether or not Chairman Wontumi should suffer the full brunt of the Minerals and Mining Act or not. Because we know that, this law had been there, was passed in 2016, and then it was amended in 2019, and the punishment was made stiffer because around 2019 was when illegal mining was just causing a lot of problems. And so there was such an agreement that the punishment that were offered in the original act were not punitive enough, and that is why the law was amended in 2019 to make room for much more stiffer punishment. And so we'll get to know pretty shortly.
I'm learning that the maximum sentence is actually 25 years.
25
the minimum
years.
is 15 years. And we're also learning that counsel for Chairman Wontumi is urging the court to temper justice with mercy, because Chairman Wontumi has shown genuine remorse and has also cooperated fully throughout the trial and is a devoted family man, and that the defense accordingly prays for the imposition of maximum sentence, because you can understand the two sides.
This is not showing, right? So this is Chairman Wontumi, who has maintained his innocence throughout the trial, and actually says that I did not commit the offense. And now these are the lawyers who are telling the judge
tables have turned now.
He is now shown remorse. Where is the remorse when you say that you are not guilty? And so I get that. I'm not saying this against Chairman Wontumi.
We are not in the courtroom.
I'm just saying that if you are innocent and you did not do this and you maintain that, remorse means that you accept that you did something wrong, but you are saying that I admit that I didn't do well and I'll do better the next time. But we haven't found out with Chairman Wontumi. But again, that is his prerogative, and lawyers will always do this
take just a
to
moment.
try and tamper the things down. So just like the clarification has come in, a ceiling of 25 years, a minimum of 15 years. So at any chance, Chairman Wontumi, who was 49 at the time these offenses were filed, and who is 50 this year, we know that about 2-3 weeks ago, he celebrated his 50th birthday, could go for a minimum of 15 years, which will mean if he's to serve a full time in jail, he could be returning when he is 65 or 63 or less, or just a little less than that.
65.
And if the judge decides to go to 25 or 20, that takes him a lot in there. But we'll get to see how that goes and whether or not Chairman Wontumi,
I really want to see
for mitigation will happen.
His reaction to the sentence in court as it now. I can't wait for us to speak to our legal affairs correspondent for Bayaga, who is currently in the courtroom monitoring everything that is happening in the court.
Like you said,
right
yes,
now.
I've just seen the amendment. So what I was reading earlier on about the punishment was the 2006 law, which had just 3 and 5 years. And then there was a consensus that was not punitive enough. And then section 99 says the person who buys or sells mineral without license or who mines without a valid authority granted under this act commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine of not less than 10,000 penalty units. One penalty unit is 12 cedis, and not more than 15,000 penalty units, and to a term of imprisonment of not less than 15 years and not more than 25 years. So the judge has a lot of options. He can impose a fine or impose custodial sentence or both. So he can impose part of a fine and impose custodial sentence in a part. We'll get to see